The charge is treason. The defendant is Georges Clément, a Belgian, once the self-styled Lion of Katanga. His military career seemed to be over, but others had different ideas. 3 days before the island of Santa Isabella, one of the last of Britain's Caribbean possessions, was granted independence, Georges Clément is now accused of leading a motley band of ex-Congo mercenaries up the beach at Blackbeard's Bay. The invasion was a complete failure, but Clément managed to escape. He was arrested in Fulchester and brought to trial at Fulchester Crown Court on a charge of treason. This is the second day of the trial.
Mr. Parsons, I've considered your request that the evidence of this witness be held in camera. As you well know, evidence may only be held in camera if it is of such a nature that the security of the realm may be placed at risk if it were made public.
Yes, my lord, it may be possible that Detective Chief Superintendent Lay may be required to identify certain information and the sources of that information which has come into the hands of the special branch.
My lord, my client is not a spy, nor has he been accused of espionage. No scientific secrets are at stake, nor has the security of the realm been affected by any action of his.
Mr. Parsons, I'm not satisfied that your grounds are strong enough for this witness's evidence to be heard in camera.
My lord, may I point out...
No, Mr. Parsons, you may not. I dislike secrecy in a court of law unless the arguments for it are overwhelming, and yours are not.
As your lordship pleases.
Detective Chief Superintendent Lane, I must remind you that you're still on oath.
I understand, my lord.
Now, you are Detective Chief Superintendent Alwyn Lane.
Yes, sir.
And you are attached to the special branch.
I am, sir.
And you arrested the prisoner Georges Clément on the 27th of May this year.
I did, sir.
Where did you arrest him?
At Fulchester Coach Station. He was boarding a bus to York.
Yes. Had you had Mr. Clément under observation for some time prior to his arrest?
Yes, sir.
For how long?
On and off for the past few years.
Well, ever since he came back from the Congo, in fact.
Well, to be absolutely correct, sir, he came to this country from Holland. He travelled via Belgium and Holland from the Congo.
Is that, that was in November 1969?
That's correct, sir.
And did he marry soon afterwards?
Yes, sir. The bride was a Miss Margaret Patterson of Fulchester. They were married in... May I consult my notes, my lord?
Certainly, Chief Superintendent.
Mr. Clément and Miss Margaret Patterson were married
November 23rd, 1969, in Fulchester Register Office.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes. Now, what was Mrs. Clément's nationality before her marriage?
British.
Yes. And Mr. Clément then settled in Fulchester?
Yes, sir. He and his wife bought a hotel on the moors just outside the town.
Yes. Was the hotel successful?
Apparently so. It had quite a large weekend and holiday trade.
As Mr. and Mrs. Clément ran the hotel together?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Was the marriage happy, as far as you could ascertain?
As far as I could judge, yes, sir. In 1971, Mrs. Clément gave birth to a son.
Yes. Now, did you keep Mr. Clément under constant observation over these 4 years?
No, sir, I just kept an eye on him from time to time.
Were his actions in any way suspicious?
No, my lord. That is not until 13 months ago.
What happened then?
I noticed that he'd begun to make regular journeys to Harwich. Sometimes he went on day trips to Holland.
He went alone?
Yes, sir.
What was the purpose of these trips to Holland?
Well, our information's not complete on that point, sir. However, on one occasion, I trailed him across to Amsterdam and saw him meet Hans Schneider and another man called Duplessis.
Now, Schneider was Clément's second in command in the Congo, was he not?
That's correct, sir.
Yes. Now, did you eventually take certain steps in relation to Mr. Clément's telephone?
Yes, sir. I applied to the Home Office for permission for constant telephonic surveillance.
Yes.
In plain language, Chief Superintendent, what does that mean?
One of my officers tapped the defendant's telephone, my lord.
Bugging?
That is what the Americans call it, my lord.
A distasteful business, Chief Superintendent.
I agree, my lord, but sometimes necessary.
And do you produce a tape recording of several telephone conversations between the defendant and various persons known to the special branch?
The authenticity of these recordings is disputed, my lord.
Well, are you asking me to send the jury out?
Oh, no, my lord.
Very well, Mr. Lotterby. Mr. Parsons, do you have these recordings in court?
Yes, my lord.
I hope it won't take long to set them up.
No, my lord, we're fully prepared.
Right, well...
I would like to offer this tape in evidence, my lord. Detective Chief Superintendent, can you identify that tape?
Yes, sir. This is a tape of telephone calls to and from the defendant's hotel.
Yes. And has the tape remained in your possession ever since the time of his recording?
Yes, sir, it has.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
This first extract was recorded on December 15th, 1972.
Hi, More Hotel.
It's Hendrik.
Wait a minute. Leave that, I'll see to it. Where are you?
Place called Notley Moorside, know it?
Yes, about 12 miles away. You saw him?
Yes,
He guaranteed our supplies?
yes.
All of them?
Some things he can't manage.
What?
Rocket launchers, mortars.
Ah, merde.
He can do armor lights.
Good. Why not the rest?
There's a big demand.
Pay him.
With what money's run out?
We only have 3 months. We've got to go and get them for more money.
All Schneider's getting is promises.
Where are you at the moment?
Post office in the village.
Okay. Walk up the Moore Road as if you're taking a stroll. I'll pick you up in an hour.
Okay.
Now, what was the significance of that conversation, Chief Superintendent?
The arms, sir. This was the first mention of arms.
Yes, rocket launchers and mortars.
And armor lights.
Yes, what are they?
American automatic rifles, sir. Very popular with guerrilla groups.
Yes. Now, who was the second man, the other voice on the telephone, the man who called himself Hendrik?
Hendrik Duplessis, he was Mr. Clermont's supply officer in the Congo.
Yes, I see. And when was this second recording made, did you say?
2 weeks later, December 29th.
Yes, thank you.
Who's that?
Hendrik,
What's the news? Good or bad?
pretty good. We got training facilities.
Where?
Honduras.
What about transport?
It's been arranged.
Good. Where are you?
Same place as last time.
I'll come and get you.
Yes, thank you very much. Now, you concluded from these two telephone conversations, Chief Superintendent, that things were coming to a head.
I did, sir. Arms had been mentioned, a base for training in Honduras,
Yes.
and transport to Santa Isabella.
And at this point, did you propose to take action against the defendant?
Yes, sir.
And what was that action?
I decided to go and talk to him the day after the phone call.
And did you do so?
Yes, sir, but he'd gone.
Gone?
Vanished. He'd left the country.
Yes. You spoke to his wife?
Yes, she seemed very distressed, but she said she had no idea where he'd gone.
Yes. Now, after Mr. Clermont left the country for Honduras, did Mrs. Clermont and the child remain in this country?
Oh, yes, she continued to run the hotel.
Yes. And on his return from Santa Isabella, you picked up Mr. Clermont at the Fulchester bus station.
That's correct, sir. He'd been observed arriving by train in Fulchester from Fishguard.
And you personally arrested him?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Did Mr. Clermont say anything at the time of his arrest?
No, sir, he refused to make any statement, and he's continued to refuse to do so.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Chief Superintendent.
Chief Superintendent, these tape recordings of alleged telephone conversations, which you maintain were so significant, they appear to give the minimum of information, do they not?
They gave sufficient, sir.
But not apparently enough to enable you to call on Mr. Clermont before he disappeared. Santa Isabella is not mentioned in these recordings, is it?
No, sir, not by name.
So you didn't know where Mr. Clermont was going?
We had other information.
Yes, you do seem to have a lot of mysterious sources of information, Chief Superintendent.
It's the nature of the job, sir.
Yes, I'm sure it is. Now, this man, Hendrik Duplessis, whom you identified on the recording, where is he now?
Dead. He was one of those killed on the beach at Santa Isabella.
So he cannot appear in this court and confirm or deny that it was his voice.
Obviously not, sir.
So how can we be sure it was him?
Well, as I told you, I followed Clermont to Amsterdam, and I saw him meet Hans Schneider and Duplessis. But I was also close enough to be able to overhear the sound of their voices.
Oh, what did they talk about?
Old times, mostly.
Nothing sinister?
Not when they were sitting down in the cafe, no. But then they started walking.
And then they were out of earshot, so presumably they could still have been talking about old times. And you say you were subsequently able to recognize Duplessis' voice from having listened to him take part in what, a 20, 30, 40-minute conversation?
63 minutes, to be precise, sir.
You've no proof that the voice on that recording is that of Hendrik Duplessis. Now, have you, Chief Superintendent?
I'm quite satisfied that it was so.
Well, your satisfaction alone is not sufficient. Tell me, Chief Superintendent, don't you find these recordings somewhat curious?
In what way, sir?
Well, here we have, according to your tape, two conspirators contemplating armed revolt. They discuss it over the phone.
I can only assume they were not aware that their phone had been tapped, sir.
Yes. Bugged is the word his lordship used. Do you expect the jury to believe that in this day and age, two experienced mercenary leaders like Clément du Plessis had never heard of phone bugging?
Nevertheless, they talked over the phone as they did so. You heard them?
Oh, yes, I heard them. But I don't believe it. You were present when these conversations were recorded, were you?
Yes, sir.
The tape remained in your possession?
Oh, yes, sir.
All the time?
Yes, sir.
But you carried it around with you, did you?
No, sir. I locked it away in my office safe.
So the tape did not remain in your possession all the time?
Not in that sense, no, sir.
And quite clearly, you cannot give any absolute guarantee that this tape has not been tampered with. Now, Chief Superintendent, you tell my learned friend that the Clément's marriage appeared happy.
Yes, sir.
How did you know?
From the observation of my officers.
Well, did you have one of them secreted in their bedroom?
No, sir.
Perhaps you had their bedroom bugged.
No, sir.
So on what do you base your conclusions?
They always appeared to be on good terms.
You mean they didn't fight in public before the hotel guests?
I mean they seemed friendly.
In fact, you have no positive proof for the real state of the Clément's marriage, have you?
Apart from...
Oh, please answer yes or no.
No, sir.
Thank you, Chief Superintendent.
Now, Chief Superintendent Lane, to your knowledge, was that tape altered or tampered with in any way?
No, sir. And I should like to point out that my office safe is connected by a security device to the main switchboard at the police station.
Which is constantly manned?
Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you. Now, the hotel Mr. and Mrs. Clément ran, in whose name was it?
In both names, sir. It was jointly owned.
Yes, and over these 4 years, you and your officers were able to observe them on many occasions.
Oh, yes, sir.
Now, to your knowledge, did Mr. and Mrs. Clément ever act as if they were anything other than a normal, happily married couple?
No, sir.
Thank you, Chief Superintendent. That concludes the evidence for the prosecution, my lord.
You are Arnold Parker of Grange Farm, Dilford, near Fulchester.
I am.
You have an honours degree in electronics from Cambridge University.
Yes.
You are a lecturer in audio engineering at Stonebridge University.
Yes.
And you are author of 2 books on what I believe is called electronic surveillance.
Bugging. Yes, that's right.
Now, Mr. Parker, have you had an opportunity of studying this tape held by Special Branch and used in evidence in this case?
Yes, I've studied it.
I refer in particular to alleged telephone conversations between the defendant and a man allegedly called Hendrik du Plessis.
Yes.
Now, in your opinion, are these recordings authentic?
It depends on what you mean by authentic.
Well, firstly, are the voices those of the defendant and Mr. du Plessis?
The defendant's voice is there. As for the other, it's not quite that simple.
What do you mean, Mr. Parker?
May I demonstrate, my lord?
Oh, more electronics, Mr. Lotterby.
I'm afraid so, my lord.
Very well, Mr. Parker, proceed.
I have a copy of the first telephone recording. Now, if you remember, the conversation began with Mr. Clément answering the phone, a voice identifying itself as Henrik. Take it from there, please.
Place called Notley Moorside, note?
Yes, about 12 miles away. You saw him?
Notice the slight change in the background noise level between the last 2 sentences.
No. No, to be frank, Mr. Parker, no, I didn't.
Try and listen for it. Go back. Repeat that last one.
Place called Notley Moorside, note?
Yes, about 12 miles away. You saw him?
Well, what is your explanation?
I think that is where a new tape was spliced on and re-recorded.
In your opinion, is the phrase, "you saw him," said in Mr. Clément's voice?
Oh, yes, but it comes from a different telephone conversation and was joined on to make it appear that this is all one conversation. A lot of Mr. Clément's other remarks have been taken out of context and re-recorded. For example, roll on from there, please.
You guaranteed our supplies?
Yes.
All of them?
I should imagine that was probably taken from a telephone conversation Mr. Clément had with his brewers.
What about the mention of the weapons?
From the words rocket launchers, please.
Rocket launchers, mortars.
Ah, merde.
He can do armor lights.
Good. Why not the rest?
Thank you. You'll notice that Clément never mentions any weapon by name. It's always the other man who does that. Clément's words could have been taken from almost any telephone conversation he'd made.
Now, is the other voice that of Hendrik du Plessis?
That I don't know. I don't see how anyone can tell. As I understand it, he's dead.
I'm afraid I don't follow you, Mr. Parker.
Well, my lord, perhaps it'd be simpler if I explained how I could reproduce this telephone conversation from a number of taped conversations.
Yeah, I understand the process of taking snippets of conversation, but what about Mr. du Plessis' questions?
That's no problem, my lord. All you need is someone to imitate du Plessis' voice, which you then record.
If I understand you correctly, you take these bits of pieces of conversation, you put them together on a new tape, as if the whole thing was happening in one moment of time.
Correct, my lord.
Well, can you prove it?
No, my lord. At least not in any absolute sense. The only real and final proof is to find the patched master tape, which I should imagine would have been destroyed just as soon as it had been re-recorded.
Nonetheless, Mr. Parker, you were able to tell that these conversations had been doctored, shall we say?
Yes, the basic giveaway is in the fluctuations of the background noise level of the recording.
And you found such changes in these recordings?
I did.
Thank you, Mr. Parker.
Now, Mr. Parker, you say that fluctuations in the background noise level was the giveaway.
Yes.
Yes. Now, it is true, is it not, that many factors can affect the background noise level of a recording?
Yes, indeed.
Yes, accidental factors, quite innocent factors.
Yes.
And not the least of which being simple mechanical fault.
Yes, but with one proviso.
What's that?
One would not expect a fault to occur just at the point where arms are mentioned and then right itself immediately after.
But it could happen.
Pigs could fly.
Yes, and talking of things agricultural, Mr. Parker, your address is Grange Farm, is it not?
It is.
Grange Farm is a commune, is it not?
Yes.
An anarchist commune?
We don't believe in labels.
No, I'm sure you don't, Mr. Parker. Now, this is the second time, is it not, that you've given evidence against the police about alleged bugging activities?
My lord, what Mr. Parker has done on other occasions in other courts can in no way affect his performance in this.
I can't answer on that, Mr. Lotterby. I'm not clear on your line of defence. Are you disputing that Mr. Clement was involved in this uprising?
Certainly, my lord. The prosecution has brought forward no proof whatsoever.
You're wasting time.
Mr. Clement.
Lawyers confuse everything. I'm an honorable man, a soldier. I led the landing on Santa Isabella. I do not deny it.
Look, Mr. Clement, you must not interrupt.
I tell the truth, I was there. I was a soldier fighting for a cause I believe to be right.
Mr. Clement, I must advise
I have
you...
spoken.
Mr. Lotterby, would you like a brief adjournment to consult with your client?
I do not need lawyers to tell me it is more prudent to lie than to tell the truth. I know that. But I am not a prudent man, nor am I ashamed.
Under the circumstances, my lord, I think any such conference would be fruitless.
Yes. Have you any further questions, Mr. Parsons?
No, my lord.
I've no re-examination, my lord.
Right. You may go, Mr. Parker.
I call the defendant, Georges Clément.
We'd better also unpack that.
What is your religion?
Protestant.
Take the book in your right hand and read aloud the words on the card.
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
You are Georges Albert Clément?
Yes, sir.
Your present address is Bentham Prison, Fulchester?
Yes, sir.
Are you at present married to Margaret Patterson?
She has started divorce proceedings.
Detective Chief Superintendent Lane has said that you are joint owner of the Highmore Hotel with your wife. Is that true?
No. I made over my share of the hotel to Margaret. That is why I came back to Fulchester.
Is Margaret Patterson your first wife?
No, my second. My first wife died in the Congo.
Until you came to this country 5 years ago, you were the owner of a plantation in the Congo, were you not?
Yes.
Now, what happened to this plantation?
They destroyed it.
Who?
Congo army deserters, gendarmes, guerrillas, who knows? I doubt if they knew themselves. Some had uniforms, some had not, but all were armed. They came one morning, early, 150, 200 of them. It was a massacre. They killed my Africans, my dogs. They burned my house, my crops.
What happened to your wife?
They raped her and killed her.
You carry a scar on your face. Is that a memento of when your wife was murdered?
One of the blacks had a panga, a big knife. He meant to cut off my head. He missed. He was drunk on my whiskey. They were mad, quite mad, savages. They leave me for dead with my wife's head beside me. The natives believe there's great power in a head.
You lost everything in this raid.
I lost my plantation. Over 20 years' work. In 2 hours, it was all gone. It was still burning 2 days later. All gone.
So you decided to fight back, to become a leader of mercenaries.
They had to be stopped. Black savages destroying everything. Over 20 years' work, my life all gone.
Mr. Chase has given his version of events at Juba during the Congo War.
He didn't understand Africa. How could he after only 2 weeks? You must know the circumstances. The Congo was in a state of anarchy. Private armies, public armies, guerrillas. We took Juba about 8 o'clock in the morning. It had been abandoned by Congolese troops. The villagers welcomed us. 20 of my men went into a bar. A bomb went off. 17 of them were killed. Someone had placed a bomb. Others must have known it was there. I took 17 Africans who I felt sure were responsible. If they didn't place the bomb themselves, they must have known who had. They refused to tell the truth. I had them shot, that is all.
So it was just the 17 who died?
Africans only understand strength. You're wasting your time being magnanimous with blacks.
Your second marriage, how did your second marriage to Margaret Patterson work out?
Good at first, then not so good.
The marriage began to break up?
Yes.
And why was that?
I'm not a hotelier. I'm a planter. What should I know about running hotels?
Did you ever think of returning to Africa?
How could I? I was too well known. No black state would have me. It would be difficult for me, even in South Africa.
How did you become involved in the Santa Isabella affair?
I had read about the independence. I knew there were planters, businessmen, white men who were worried about what would happen.
You feared it would be the Congo all over again?
Of course. The only hope is to stand firm.
You sympathize with the views of the white population of Santa Isabella?
When you have given years of your life building up something, it is yours. No one has a right to take it away from you. What have the blacks done everywhere in the world where they have taken over? They have taken what people like me have built.
So what did you decide to do?
I left England and went to Amsterdam, where I offered my services.
So you didn't start discussing the rebellion until after you finally left the country?
No.
Now, Chief Superintendent Lane has produced recordings of telephone conversations you were alleged to have had with Hendrik du Plessis. Do you remember these conversations?
I do, exactly.
Do these recordings accord with your recollection?
No, they do not.
In what way are they different?
Names have been added, places.
You are of the opinion that these recordings have been tampered with?
Of the opinion? We are not fools and amateurs. You think we would name names, give details of arms where anyone could have been listening?
The case of the Queen against Clément will be resumed tomorrow in the Crown Court.